Rabbi, I have some big news about Shmerel.
Oh.
Yeah. So last night we ate the shluchim through a party, and they did a Hanukkah party quiz on like the TV. So I logged it, or I made my name Shmerel. No one knew who Shmerel was.
Really?
But I ended up. It was just a fun game, but Shmerel ended up winning. So on the screen it said Shmerel first place. And they were like, bro, who's Shmerel?
Well, how did Beryl do it?
Beryl wasn't up there. Only Shmerel showed up. I think he's
Beryl and Shmuel can't stand each other, right?
He's done some shuba.
Shmerel.
Zachary like that.
It was the name. It was the...
Yeah.
Okay, did we do our homework yesterday? Remember our homework? How'd it go?
I had technically done it like the night before you told me. I explained it to my brother.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Oh.
And was he happy with your explanation?
He was.
Oh, Hashem, go look it up. No, I think Moshe didn't do it. Moshe didn't do it. I can tell Moshe's feeling bad. We're going to change Moshe's name to Shmerel. Okay, that's it, Moshe. I'm calling you Shmerel until you tell me I'm done. He's lucky there's no Gemara shirt today. There's not. It's review.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
Who did you talk to? You didn't talk to anybody yet. Okay.
No, I just remembered.
You just remember. Yeah, I know you just remember. You didn't just remember. I just said it. It's not called remembering. Did you remember to take out the garbage? Oh, it's just remembering. Wait. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. Trust me.
What was the assignment?
The assignment was to explain to some other Jew the idea of Yehuda Tata and Yehuda Ilah.
1 second.
Well, no. Was there a time limit? No. Did we say okay? But quick. You don't. Not in an hour.
No, you
Quickly. Okay. We're going to finish the Maimer today, Bezrat Hashem. Okay, so we said that. Well, I tell you, we'll just start from Zion. We'll go over the page and we'll finish the Maimer. It won't take us very long. V'zeh shekavu ascholos yimei Chanukah b'chaf hey b'kislev shebei hayumes haneres. We saw this yesterday. Why not the Milchama? Because, so to speak, Yehuda Tata is not a party. Yehuda Tata is a Milchama. Right? You don't party for Yehuda Tata. Where's the party? Yehuda Ilah. When there's a transcendent level of godly reality, so then you party. Right? Which is really, if you think about it, it's really an interesting idea. You could forbring about it. We're not going to forbring about it all day. You could forbring about it. Maybe forbring about it Sunday night. I don't know. When the Rebbe says there's no celebration of Yehuda Tata, what does that mean? Yehuda Tata is what we are all, I won't use the word, we're obligated, obviously. We're obligated in everything, right? But the real challenge in our life is Yehuda Tata. And when you meet a challenge, so you don't celebrate, that's what you were supposed to do, right? I mean, you were supposed to do that, right? When do you celebrate? When you've done something beyond what is the basic expectation. So that's Yehuda law. The Rebbe doesn't say it, but it's so interesting. Why not say, since the pneumius of the Milchama is also Mesiras Nefesh, like we've been saying, so it's all the third level of Ayadeh laws, then why not say it's really, and especially once that's revealed on Chafei and Chavav, so then retroactively celebrate Chav Daled. Yehuda Tata is natural reality, and I'm supposed to be able to navigate it. And I'm not making parties every time I put on tefillin. I have to drink a l'chaim. I put on tefillin. Now that doesn't mean that putting on tefillin isn't an amazing thing. It is. And any avodah in Yehuda Tata is an amazing thing. But it's not a party. It's what I'm supposed to do. Right? So, the lawyer who finished his law brief. Oh, let's have a party. No, start the next one. You're a lawyer. What are you doing? Who won, the biggest case he's ever won, and it was impossible that he was going to win that case, and everything worked. Okay, fine, that you can party for. A regular, everyday law brief, what are you partying for? I don't understand. Just open up the next file and go back to work. think that's sort of what the Rebbe is saying about the Havdalah Kislev, who Shemagalim Boyal Yedei Nes Hashem and Shegam Hu, that what we do reveal through the Nes Hashem and Shegam Hu, that also that level, Hanes the Nitzach and Milchama Shor Shehu L'Mayla Mishtashus. Still, its level is L'Mayla Mishtashus, but the Rebbe says, "V'avshi yesh ma'ila b'yichudat tital yichudei law." Even though there's a tremendous advantage of yichudat tital yichudei law, which we footnote 38 is what we were going to do, right? Which we didn't get to. We'll do that right now. Right. V'yesh leimar, and one could say shezil masha nes l'mitzachon milchama haya siba l'nes Hashem, and that's why. It's the cause of everything else, and we know the sibu l'mayla mi'masevev. The cause is greater than the effect; otherwise, it couldn't cause it. Obviously, mikol makom harei hashleimus diyichudat Torah hu sheyeh bo ha'or v'gilu diyichudat ilah. The ultimate purpose of yichudat Torah, we talked about this at length yesterday, is to come to the level of yichudat ilah. So really, the celebration is yichudat ilah. Yichudat Torah is a step. Right, an important step, a necessary step, and it might be I never really get to the next step in absolute terms in my life. Okay, but again, we talked about it yesterday. It's very, very important to also involve ourselves in the hisbeinus, in the contemplation and the understanding of Yehudi law, the higher level, a more transcendent level, so that then I don't allow my involvement in the world to be completely limited, because I realize the limitation isn't really what's there. That's what I'm experiencing. That's what's going on in my life, and that's what it means to be your average everyday Jew floating around Eilam Hazeh. Okay, but the Iker is Yichudei Law, and so the celebration is Yichudei Law. Okay, now let's look at footnote 38. Law Ayer to explain. Mia Mavur, but there's two footnotes here that I made. Yeah, two footnotes here that are important to learn. See, there's a long one, 42. La Mavur by Maimer. And it's the Friedrich Rebbe's Maimer from Tavrish Tzadichas. Binyan ner mitzvah v'Torah or. Famous pasuk, right? Ner mitzvah v'Torah or. And Chazal talk about it a lot. That a mitzvah is like a ner, and the Torah is like a or. It's a ner. It's a specific light that lights up a very specific area, whereas or is more general. Torah lights up everything. But interesting enough, what's the source of the or? The ner. Meaning, where'd the or come from? The or came from the candle. So even though the mitzvah relates to the candle, and the Torah relates to the more powerful expression of or, but the source of the or is the candle. Right? Al yedei mitzvahs, nizbar v'naser kli lelukus. That through mitzvahs, a person is rectified and purified, and becomes a vessel for elukus, becomes someone who becomes sensitive to elukus. Which is, we saw this earlier in the Maimer, birur, the rectification, va'alaw, and the elevation, milamata lamayla, from below above. That's our avodah, mitzvahs down here. Mitzvahs elevate us to a higher level. Mitzvahs take us to a better place. But they're down here in Gashmias. V'Torah or is Torah is something that comes from above, right? We talked about this a number of times lately. Torah is holy. And the mitzvah is also obviously holy. The source of the mitzvah is the Torah. We get that. But when you're sitting and learning Torah, what are you doing? You're involving yourself in an action that's if it weren't Torah, it's a completely normal human action. And all the kedusha comes from above. There's this incredible revelation of light from above. It's of the power of the Torah. But Torah or yimshacha v'gilu or insev milamayla lamata. And Torah or is or. What's or? Or is being drawn down from a higher level. Torah is not a physical act. Yes, you're sitting there in front of a physical book and you're using your physical brain, but Torah is a conceptual reality. Mitzvahs are done in Gashmias. So mitzvahs are milamata lamayla, taking physical reality and elevating it, and you are also elevated through that. And Torah is connecting to a level of light that's drawn down from above. Mikol makom, nevertheless, there's actually an advantage of mitzvahs over Torah. Even though we say Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam, there's still a mile of mitzvahs. And what's the mile of mitzvahs? That through the rectification and the elevation of the physical reality, al yedei mitzvahs, what does that bring about? Even on a certain level, even more than Torah. It's fulfilled the ultimate intention of the creation of the world, which is that there should be a dwelling place in the lower realms. And I'm actually using the lower realms to bring about a revelation of Elokus. I'm using the physical object to become an object that ultimately doesn't, at the moment of the mitzvah, yes, it's still physical, but it's not really physical. It's an object expressing God's will. Therefore, the mitzvahs were compared in the mashal, in the parable. The mitzvahs are compared to a ner. What's a ner? It causes the light of Torah. That's why also learning Torah without mitzvahs isn't quite the same, right? Why? Well, because the person isn't as much of a kli delokus. So the Torah is more Greek than holy. Right? What is it that sensitizes us to the holiness of the Torah? After the mitzvahs we do, which is what the Rebbe just said, was really an amazing thing.
You said mitzvah has an advantage that it rectifies, right? So it rectifies what exactly?
You and the physical object you're using. Makes a greater impact on physical reality. Now, Torah also elevates you in a very, very powerful way. But who is it that's going to be a kli? Who is it that's going to be someone open to the effect that Torah can truly have on them? Only someone who's involved in mitzvahs. Someone who learns Torah without mitzvahs. Then what are they learning exactly? They're learning a Greek Torah, not a God Torah. Right? Because if I'm learning the Torah, I'm not doing mitzvahs, so then I'm not really learning the Torah. I'm not paying any attention to what I'm reading, and I'm not internalizing it in any way, shape, or form. What's wrong, Rabbi? What would you like?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Didn't mean to irritate.
No, why? What are you kidding? When we're in the presence of holiness, Rabbi, it's just you're the one who walked in the room. I don't know what you want from us. Wait,
It's not meant to trigger such a response.
no, what? In the presence of holiness, Rabbi, we have a natural response just to jump up like a I don't know,
Frog.
like a
Like
a
a
jumping
frog.
jack, Okay. Mikol Mokum, Shleimus of Yehuda Tatah is to come to the level of Yehudi Ilah, so there's no celebration of Yehuda Tatah. It's an amazing idea. I mean, you can bring about this forever. It's just a really amazing idea.
Is he suggesting that there is partying in Yehuda Ilah?
Absolutely. Well, as a matter of fact, generally, when there's a revelation of some supernatural reality, we party. It's called Yom Tov. Partying all week long Hanukkah. Why? Well, there's a revelation of something beyond. When do we start the party? We start the party when there's an overt revelation of the transcendent, as opposed to a success in the immanent. Just a really interesting way of looking at things. This is what Rebbe is saying, right? Success in immanent reality. You're supposed to have success in immanent reality. Don't party. Just go weiter, right?
Yeah.
Meaning, I'll bring an example from life in our base medrash. At a certain point, people, once they get a pshat in a Gemara, stop high-fiving, right? The newer students in yeshiva, what do every time they learn a Gemara? And I think we got it.
Yeah.
Right? Well, you're supposed to get it, right? I mean, it's not a party. When I get it, you're supposed to get it, right? Now, I get why people are excited about getting it when it seems supernatural to get it, because this is not my natural reality yet. But there is a time, and hopefully that time will be relatively soon for everybody, when learning a page of Gemara is part of my natural. It's like eating breakfast. When you get the spoon in your mouth and you didn't spill it all over yourself, wow, I got the spoon in my mouth. Of course you got the spoon in your mouth. I just put the spoon in your mouth. When a little kid gets the spoon in the mouth, oh my goodness gracious, the parents get so excited. Hey, look, she got her spoon in her mouth. Unbelievable. Not all over the bib. Okay. Why? Because it's sort of almost, it's also natural, right? But watching a baby progress and learn how to do things, it's miraculous that they just learn you're watching them and they're just learning these things so fast and so it's astounding. Okay. So when it's a little baby, you'll take a video of it and you'll send it all over the family WhatsApp group. Right? She's walking. Right? She's walking. Do you know how many videos there are of Shayna Kaplan walking in the last month on our video? Why? Because Shayna's legs are about that thin, and it is miraculous that Shana can actually stand up and not fall over on legs that are that thin. She's at time. Okay, so she walks like like little kids walk, like they're drunk, right? So it's cute, right? But at a certain point, you stop celebrating walking. I mean, I walk. If chas v'sholom, someone had a stroke, and they start walking, well, you celebrate, right? Because supernatural, Baruch Hashem, they've broken through a boundary. But you celebrate breaking through boundaries. It's so interesting what they're ever saying. It's like an amazing idea. But to take it a step further, what's our natural state? Yehuda Tata. Don't get so excited about Yehuda Tata. You're supposed to serve God in relevance. That's what you're here for. That doesn't mean it's not hard and we don't enjoy it, but I mean, high-fiving ourselves, meaning, giving myself high five every time I do a mitzvah. I'm supposed to be doing mitzvahs. That's what we're supposed to be doing down here. Right? It might be that it's something new and exciting, and hopefully even when it's old, it's new and exciting. But it's not a party. It's just life. Life is serving God, Baruch Hashem. What do we celebrate? Things that are sort of a little larger than life, so to speak. Those are the celebrations. Right? You celebrate a kid getting married. Well, they get married every day. It's just like, wow, look at that. Okay, amazing. But
when
today is our he's not our youngest. He's 2 minutes older than his younger brother. Like the last two sort of showed up at once. So it's his second anniversary, and he's the father of little Shana with the stick legs. That's she's the great entertainment in the family, watching Shana walk. So you celebrate things like that. No, how big a party? I don't know. At a certain point in marriage, an anniversary is also like it's a nice day to remember, but you throw the biggest party. For big numbers, the kids like to throw parties. But at a certain point, you're married to this woman. That's just who you are. It's like Baruch Hashem. This is natural. This isn't like something, wow! No, Baruch Hashem. I'm married to this person, I'm used to it, and that's who I am. That's who she is, and we're natural together. Like, it works. Baruch Hashem. We have to celebrate every day. On a certain level, yes, celebrate every day, but not with a party. Just celebrate every day by being b'simcha. You have to throw a party every day. To drink l'chaims every day. It would be a bad way to live your life if you're drinking l'chaims every day.
when Mashiach comes, will that be a party?
We're definitely going to have a party when Mashiach comes. There's no doubt about it. What's going to happen after? I mean, I don't know. None of us really know. The Rebbe Shab does say something really fascinating about when Mashiach comes, which is just astounding. He says, when Mashiach comes, obviously we're going to enjoy it, but we're going to look back with longing on the challenge of serving God in the dark. We're going to miss it. We're going to miss the challenge because it'll be so easy. That's really something, no? That's really something. Now, you'd think he would know. The Rebbe, when the Rebbe said to that guy, the famous story, I mean, it's a video, right? You see him going by. The French guy who walked by the Rebbe and said that he was somehow convinced by France. So everybody has a connection to shluchim in France. It's just, it's incredible. So this guy was marrying a non-Jewish girl, but he still had a connection with the shluchim, and the shluchim convinced him to go by the Rebbe for dollars. And maybe the Rebbe would be able to convince him not to marry them. So he told the Rebbe he's marrying a non-Jewish girl. So the Rebbe said to him, it's a famous video.
Is that where he said he envies him? He could.
He's jealous. Because he has a real avoidance to do not marry this girl. So the Rebbe, that's not my avoidance. I don't have a avoidance like that. You can do something amazing in the eyes of Hashem. I can't do.
To not get married.
To not get married to this girl. I mean, you have a title for this, right? I don't. So I can't do that for the Abishter. I can't go beyond, that iskafia, that to go beyond myself for the Abishter. I can't do that. Wow, what a wild line to say. So the Rebbe is supposed to I'm freaking out. No? I envy you. You can do something for a Kadosh Baruch Hu that's beyond anything I can do. Vatam al zeh. Shebayim chavav b'kisei lev chichu d'arba. This is where we got up to yesterday. We didn't see this. We're going to finish the mimer today. We're going to go all the way to the end. And then, if we have time, we'll come back to footnote 42. So why not chavav? So I don't want to, chas v'shalom, this shouldn't depress you. But the Rebbe, the Rebbe says something here that's, what are you going to say? It's Vatam al zeh shebayim chavav b'kisei lev chichu d'arba. Who can mavur by Maimah? The Frida Rebbe says, "Lefisha ikar hagilui de havaya de laela," which is chavav, the essential revelation of that level of godly reality. Yelosid lover, it'll be Mesa Mashiach, and we're not in Mesa Mashiach, so we can't celebrate chavav yet because we don't really have chavav. Chavav happened, but it's not something we can celebrate because it's not part of our reality yet. When will it be part of our reality? Only be Mesa Mashiach, and until then, we're lacking. So we can't celebrate what we lack. Just really heavy. Okay, what are you going to do? Kino shel Yemesa Mashiach, shel Ches Ninim. Right? The harp of Yemesa Mashiach, they'll have 8 strands. The natural reality of Yemesa Mashiach will be supernatural. So then, interesting, what you asked me, so we're going to celebrate that? Well, we'll definitely celebrate it when it happens. But then that will become our natural reality. Mashain came to Beis HaMikdash. Hey, Rakagilui Devai Delatata. Beis HaMikdash, as we learned earlier, was a tremendously powerful level of godly revelation, but it was a level of godly revelation relative to, and therefore to a certain degree, restricted by and limited by the world, because it didn't stretch outside of the walls of the Beis HaMikdash. Right? What was the Beis HaMikdash? Like Shabbos in space. Shabbos ends. Shabbos in time ends, so Shabbos in space also ended. It won't. And what do we say about Yemei Mashiach? Yom Shekula Shabbos. It'll be a level of Shabbos constantly. That's the 8th level. Right? The Shabbos of 7 ends, and there's day 1 again. Mashain came to Beis HaMikdash here, Rekagilu Devaya Delatata. Definitely a transcendent level of godly reality, but a transcendent level of godly reality that was still connected to the world, so it was limited by the world. Shalach and Kinor shel Beis HaMikdash, therefore the harp of the Beis HaMikdash, and we learned in Tana Rabbanan that Kinor is Ner Chaf Vav, the Ner of Yud Kei Vav Kei, right? It's one of the means of revealing Yud Kei Vav Kei in the Beis HaMikdash. Hayshel Zayin Nimin, that was 7 strings. Vagilu Devaya de Laela, and the revelation of Avaya de Laela, the 3rd level in our scheme of this whole mimer. When will that be? Shaya Ba'nes Daspakas Hashem and Hayarak Lifi Sha'ah, that was only temporary. Bashana Shaba Yanes, in the year that there was the Nes, which is really also fascinating. In other words, the reality of Chaf Daled happens every year. The reality of Chaf Hey happens every year. So we can celebrate it. The reality of Chaf Vav just happened those 8 days, and that's it. That reality doesn't happen every year. Wow. I mean, what's the level of Hanukkah that's revealed every year? It's 8, but it's a level of 8 that's still connected to 7. And B'mei Mashiach, it'll be the purest level of 8. So we can't really celebrate the Chaf Vav. We celebrate an 8-day holiday, because there's a level of transcendence, but it's an 8-day holiday that's shaykh to 7 days, and Haraya is the last day, right? It's ending. Hanukkah is going to end. Like Mesa Mashiach, Yom Shekula Hanukkah, it'll be 8 all the time. It won't be a temporary revelation of 8. It'll be 8 all the time. Right? So, this is unbelievable what the Rebbe is saying here. It's just absolutely astounding.
Okay, so the 3rd level has 7 strands?
That what?
3rd level has 7 strands?
I'm sorry, can you go
You said the 3rd level has 7 strands?
This 3rd level is completely transcendent and never ends. The 3rd level is beyond any state of limitation. The 2nd level is a level of transcendence, but a level of transcendence that's revealed within the context of limited world reality. That's Chavaya de Latata. So that's a certain limited aspect of revelation. Where is that revelation in time? Shabbos. What happens Metzi Shabbos? Gone. It's not Shabbos anymore. Right? Where's that level in space? Beis HaMikdash. What about outside the Beis HaMikdash? Not there. Okay. B'mei Mashiach? One of the most, we say it all the time, Yom Shekulah Shabbos, the day that will always be Shabbos. No, it's a Shabbos that doesn't end. If we had made it into Shabbos in Gan Eden, who says there would have been Yom Rishon? Right? Why do we assume there would have been a Yom Rishon again if we had been Shabbos in Gan Eden? Very well might be that Shabbos would have lasted forever, that state. And obviously it wasn't supposed to, and that's why on the sixth day of creation this whole thing happened. We've said this many, many times, that it's so important to understand that that whole event happened as part of the creation of the world, not part of the history of the world. Right? It happened on the sixth day of creation. Part of the creation of the world is the creation of Gan Eden and the destruction of Gan Eden. This, destruction relative to you and I. It's not that Gan Eden disappeared. You and I are no longer part of it. Right? Okay, that's part of the creation of the world. Why? Because God wants you and I to do a Veata down here. If we had just managed to make it to Shabbos, it was 2 hours. If we just managed to make it to Shabbos without eating lunch, so then who knows whether anything, would there ever be obviously wouldn't be a Sunday, right? Because that came a long time later. But would that day that you and I call Sunday, would that happen? Who says that? Why? Why would there be another Yom Rishon? Yom Shekulah Shabbos. Just stay Shabbos forever. Because it would be a completely transcendent level that would affect all aspects of time. As it is, the Shabbos that you and I experience is able to elevate itself out of the mundane realm of time, but not elevate all of time. So then Yom Rishon happens again. Because Yom Rishon hasn't been elevated out of Yom Rishon hood. It's still Yom Rishon. And it happens at what time? 5:31 or something, whatever. Everybody looks up, When Shabbos out? Why do you want Shabbos to be out? Okay. Why do you want Shabbos? I don't know. Maybe you want to make a cup of espresso.
What was the significance of highlighting the difference that it's the creation of the world, not the history of the world? What is that emphasizing?
That the world that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants ultimately is the world after the Aveira. Otherwise...
Oh, that it was intentional.
It's part of the creation of the world. It's part of the 6 days of creation. When the Eibusher created the world, what did he do? He created Gan Eden and he destroyed Gan Eden. Okay, Beseder, you and I destroyed Gan Eden. Beseder, that's good. That's even better because now you and I can fix it. What's the whole world about? What's the whole history of the world about, ultimately? Getting the Torah and using the Torah to bring about the reestablishment of the reality that existed for humankind for a couple of hours Friday morning in Gan Eden. That's what it's all about. It's really interesting. And how do you know it can be? It was. What do you mean, how do I know it can be? It was. You don't have to...
Yeah.
Right? We blew it. Well, we didn't. Same thing with Matan Torah. Exactly the same thing happened with Matan Torah. The Eibusher gave the Torah. What do Chazal say? That event brought about a complete change in the reality of the world. Paska zuhumas, and there was no tomb in the world temporarily. Well, that's not what he wanted. What did he want? He wanted to fix the world by giving us the Torah? No, it's not what he wanted. What did he want? I'm going to say that again, and you're going to tell me what it means. He wanted to fix the world by giving us the Torah. Is that what he wanted? What did he want?
He wanted us to create a world where he can dwell.
He wanted us to fix the world by virtue of the fact that he gave us the Torah. So after he gave us the Torah, which is this vehicle to make the world back, to bring the world back to where it's supposed to be, hinted at in the words Yom HaShishi, right, the 6th day of creation, right, and what does Rashi say in Chumash? Tu Pshatim, the Hay is either the 5 books of the Torah, or the Hay is Yom HaShishi, the 6th of Sivan. Really, when does the creation of the world really finish? The 6th of Sivan, right, when the Torah comes into the world, now the world's ready for what it's supposed to. But that also required both the Torah to come into the world and bring about the perfect state that the Torah can bring about, and then that state was destroyed also. The ego right away. Gee, I wonder who pulled that one off. Because I'll say it was an alila. It's an alila in English, when you do something that causes someone to act in a certain way that's really beyond their control. Okay. We're paying the price for it because we did it. Okay, that's also part of the game, which is hard to figure out. Okay, I get that. But It was pretty clearly part of the plan. Because it happened already once. On the sixth day of creation, exactly the same thing. Perfection, boom, get rid of it. Perfection, boom, get rid of it. Okay, now we're ready to go. Let's go. You've got the Torah, you've got a world that you've destroyed twice. Fix it. He's a wild guy, our Eibishter. Okay. Vagilu divided Leila was only Lefi Sha'ah, Bashana Shabayanes. Velochem loy kavu, therefore they didn't establish a B'chaf Bav Kislev on 26th of Kislev. Yechad Shuez Davar, anything new happened. It didn't happen yet, meaning it's going to happen, but it only happened temporarily. So that's also not a, right? What am I celebrating? Celebrate a true change, right? The person who lost 20 pounds and then put them back on. He celebrates that? No, there's nothing to celebrate, right? If he took off the 20 pounds and has created a whole new nature of himself and a whole new relationship to food, and it's going to keep the 20 pounds off and he's in good shape and okay, so when that's ultimately part of who he really is, he can celebrate. You know what, Baruch Hashem, I'm going to throw a party. I'm not eating at the party, but I'm going to throw a party. Right, okay. We'll come back to 42 if we have time. That's what Hashem we will. Shiakuyim banu, that it should be established in us inyan zeh, this whole reality of the madatem leis tzarasam, that you stood for them in the time of their trouble. Look what the Rebbe says here. Dekayal klolis inyan agolus. And what is that relevant to? Golus. Where are we? In Golus. So we're asking the Eibishter to stand with us in our trouble. Shuat tzara chi gedelu, which is the greatest tzara, the greatest trouble imaginable. Tagam shekvar avdu kol hashmades v'lei yu'oid. And even though we've gone through all of the destructions and there won't be any more, it seems to me the Rebbe quotes the Mittler Rebbe on that. Sort of a rather serious destruction after the time of the Mittler Rebbe. Our Rebbe said absolutely clearly that there will not be another event like the event of the 30s and 40s in Europe. Said absolutely clearly. But the fact that the Mittler Rebbe says is just so interesting because and the Rebbe quotes it here, and I don't know exactly how that fits into the history of the Jewish people afterwards. V'loi takim pamayim, won't happen twice. Kevin Shekvar died b'masha varnu adata, because it's already enough what we've gone through up until now in Golus. Va'achshav akol hu b'teiv, and now everything is good. As Golus goes, there's a pretty good Golus, right? I mean, the only thing lacking is Golus, and that's when we learn Veata Tetzava, we'll see that clearly. Va'adarabba, au contraire. Oid b'zman ha-Golus, even in the time of Golus, Miskayim, it's established, b'kol echad v'echad Misrael. It's established in all the Jewish people, meaning we have a certain taste of Vayum Malachim Menayach, that the kings will be your tradesmen, your Sareseim and Nikesayach, and their ministers will be your cleaners, meaning the fact that the non-Jewish world seems to serve us in a certain way. As it says in the Gemara, that already existed in the time of the Gemara. Meaning evidently the non-Jews who lived in the areas of the Jews treated them with tremendous respect. Particularly when the king and kingship helps the Jews in the performance of Torah and mitzvahs, which is certainly what we see in many countries today. Right? The Rabbi always talks about America as a Malchus Shel Chesed, a place of tremendous loving kindness, a place that assists Jews to do what Jews have to do. Right? Our kids in Australia, so they always make their Hanukkah party in a park next to the sea. It's called the Esplanade. Right? Now it's in the summertime, and they're in the tropics, so it's 95 degrees with 142% humidity. I mean, it's unbearable outside. But they do it outside, and they get a couple hundred people, and they do it. So this year, because Hanukkah coincided with another pagan holiday, So they decided, the city said, no, they don't want them to do it on the Esplanade because it's just so full of people that are there all the time because it's the holiday. So the city government of Cairns paid for them, gave them a grant to rent a mall, air-conditioned. They said it was great. An air-conditioned mall where they did their Hanukkah party. The Cairns city government paid for the Hanukkah party of Chabad of Cairns. That's what the Rebbe is talking about. Did that happen in Poland? I'm not so sure that happened in Poland. Right? Now, Australia is also a place where there's pretty serious anti-Semitism going on. Right? Not up there. Just know that's Cairns is where they all ran away from the craziness that's happening in the south of the country. Right? The people in Cairns will tell you very proudly that we don't want any people who don't want to be here around here. They walk up to you on the street and tell you this. So it's quite interesting. But so that's what the Rebbe is talking about, that actually the Malchus will help. The Gam, Baruch Hashem, they had a lot of people in the mall. The mall is the place to be in the middle of the summer of Cairns. My goodness, it's so hot, it's just beyond belief. I've never been there in the summer, but I've been there in the lead up to, and it is really hot. The Gam kishenidme sheyesh eze bilbo. And even when it appears that there seems to be some confusion, that the world seems to be going the wrong way, we walk in the ways of Avram Avinu, a Yehudi Arishan, the first Yid. That when he saw a river that was preventing him, Milakaim Sivu Hashem, right? All the Midrashim about on the way to the Akedah, all these things that happened to Avram Avinu on the way to the Akedah, all of a sudden they were walking along, he saw this raging river. No way you can cross the river. What did Avram understand? Ahmad Batekif, he stood strong, Velinispal, he wasn't affected emotionally by all of this. Vaznis Gala, what was revealed by virtue of his strong stance? There wasn't really a river there. Right? It was all just a test. Elohu Dimyan Bavad, it was only it was an imagination, so to speak. It wasn't true. It wasn't really a river. So many of the obstacles that we think are such serious obstacles in our Veata are not really there when we stand strong against them. Mikol Mokim, nevertheless, a matzav the Golis, nevertheless, even though that has to be our basic relationship to these obstacles, still the matzav and Golis, be'ezayif and she is, however it will be, even if it's something that we can look upon positively to the extent that things are good in Golis, utzara, it's still a trouble, it's still a problem, it's still something difficult for Jews. Right? It's the biggest tzara there is. And again, we'll see, we'll talk about this in quite an incredible way when we learn Veata Tetzava, which will be, sometime relatively soon.
Can you repeat after the river didn't exist?
That the Avram Avinu was walking along to the Akedah with Yitzhak, going to sacrifice Yitzhak with Eliezer and Yishmael in tow, and they came across a raging river, and Avram realized that this was just a test of the Kadosh Baruch Hu and stood strong, and I don't know exactly what I remember what the mention is, he walked into it, but the river disappeared. There's no river. So too there's many things that we put in front of ourselves in our service of the Kadosh Baruch Hu as if this is a tremendous obstacle, but it's only an obstacle because I've decided it's an obstacle. It's not truly an obstacle, and I can overcome it. If I just relate to myself, L'chatchila riba, I once heard a beautiful pshat in L'chatchila riba, the famous statement of the Rebbe Marash, L'chatchila riba, right? A priori, I should go over it. What's the story? The Rebbe Marash heard some Chassidim talking about how to deal with obstacles, how to deal with problems. If I can't go around it, I'll go under it. If I can't go under it, I'll go over it, etc. So the Rebbe Shab said, by Rebbe Marash said, by mir is l'chatchila riba. By me, it's l'chatchila riba. A priori, I go over it. Okay, so now simple pshat is I just jump over it. I once heard an amazing pshat, and it's so true. What's the deepest panemius to understand l'chatchila riba? L'chatchila riba, I'm already over it. Meaning, how if this problem it gets in the way of my serving God, what would I look like if I didn't have this problem? So go there. What's stopping me from being there? Now, there are certain objective things that are difficult, right? Okay, fine. But most of our issues in serving God are subjective. Okay, so what would I look like if I were on the other side of this problem? What would my life look like? How would I act? Okay, so envision that. Well, what's stopping me from doing that exactly? I mean, if I can envision it, then it exists in my life on some level, right? So what's stopping me from doing that? Me. Okay, but so lechatchila reber, lechatchila, see yourself on the other side of the problem and how you would act and gave weiter. Go. That's the ultimate in lechatchila reber. I have a problem. What would I look like on the other side of this problem? And that problem's behind me, not in front of me. So what's stopping me from bringing that person into my everyday behavior right now? Okay. Now, sometimes there's objective issues, sometimes not. Sometimes there are objective issues. I think I said sometimes there is objective issues, which is English that some people speak, but I try not to. Mikol Makim, Hamatzav the Gullus, Be'ezayv and Shia Utzara, Bakosha, what are we asking the Eibishter? Vamadata Lehem Be'ez Tzara. We'd say it in Alanisim. You're going to say it twice more. If you bench today, you'll say it 3 times. Right? Only 2 more davenings with Alanisim. Right? And what's our bakasha when we say that? That the Eibishter will stand for us in the times of our difficulty. And what's that? Golus. And since in all of their tsar there is to him tsar, in all of their pain there is to him pain, meaning our pain is the Eibishter's pain. The Eibishter also feels the pain of Golus. Loi bevav. That word can be written. I mean, I think it's written in the pasuk with an aleph, but it's ultimately means with a vav. Hare bevadei shebakarav mamish, definitely soon. Meitzi Kadosh Baruch is sisomi. Galus Kadosh Baruch is going to take the Jewish people out of Galus. U'kamei shekosav v'shav havai lakecha shavuscha. He, now the word shav is the kal form of he returned. He returns, because it's the vav, he will return. But he will return doesn't mean he will bring back, it means he himself will return. The word that should be there is v'heshiv, he will bring back as shvuska, your captives. But it says v'shav, he will return. Now that S therefore would mean with. He will return with your captives. In other words, the Kadosh Baruch Hu is in Golus with the Jewish people. This is the pasuk that teaches us this. V'heshiv lo nemar. It doesn't say he will bring back, but rather shav, he will return himself. Va'ad shebaim lahides la'el l'shimcha gadol, until we will then praise your great name. V'idliku neres b'chatzos kachecha, and we will light neres b'chatzos kachecha. Now in this, the chatzos kachecha in this mimer certainly will mean that we assume it's going to mean in the Heichel, where the menorah is supposed to be. But Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi, Mikdash Adni, Kenenu Yedecho. The Mikdash of Aleph Daled, Shem Aleph Daled, Kenenu Yedecho. Your hands prepare, and that's the verse that tells us, and Rashi paskins like this, that the Eibishter will build the 3rd Beis HaMikdash, and it will float down from Shemayim. The Rambam holds that we built it. Right? Rashi says that it will just appear. Right? Simple pshat is like Rashi. Simple pshat in halacha is like Rashi, because a kohen's not allowed to get drunk. Why is a kohen not allowed to get drunk? He might have to go serve in the Beis HaMikdash. Well, if we have to build it, it's going to take a long time to build, and he can probably sober up. Right? So clearly we pass him like Rashi. Right? We must pass him also like the Rambam. So what does the Rebbe say? Famous sikha explaining, somehow making a peace between those 2 different shitas, that there will be a part of the Beis HaMikdash that we will build, and that's the doors. We'll build the gates, the opening of the Beis HaMikdash. The Eibush is going to make the Beis HaMikdash. It's already made. It's up there waiting to come down any moment, and then we'll make the gates. So we'll be Makayim the Rambam shita also.
Rabbi, as a human being, as a Jew,
Yes, those 2 things, al pi pnimius atara, are 2 separate things.
Right.
We look like all those other human beings, but a human being doesn't have a nefesh elokis, and a Jew does. Doesn't mean that we don't vote in the same elections, but
Should a person, Jew be able to differentiate between when it's when one could go over an obstacle that one has created for themselves versus an objective obstacle that maybe that's really not possible?
yeah, I think we can. Most of us, I think, can all even by ourselves come to a certain conclusion as to which is which. And if we're having a hard time doing that, so then we have a mashpia that we talk to, or we have friends we talk to, and get some sort of objective opinion about the whole thing. We might not like their opinion. We would like it to be objective, because then we're putter. But usually, not all, but there's all sorts of objective. I mean, you and I can't jump to the moon. We can want to do this all we like. And you and I can't be a Rebbe. Okay, fine. I don't know why we'd want to be, but we can't be a Rebbe. Why? That's an objective issue. That's just not who we are. Okay. But there's all sorts of things we can do in a Veata. Can we daven with more intention? Yes. Okay, how do we do that? Start with 5 words. Say the first 5 words of davening and you actually mean it. Then work on 6. Might take a time to get through all the words in Shachris. Well, okay, that's what we've got, right? We've got time. How much? I don't know. That's up to the Eibush. It's not up to us. If he decides to pull the plug, God forbid, before we finished, well, that's his problem, not mine. I mean, I didn't pull the plug. He pulled the plug. Okay? So what, the Maral says, Kola oilich lasos mitzvah, and then that's anybody on their way to do a mitzvah, and an accident befalls them, Maila love kilo it's a mitzvah. It's considered as if he did the mitzvah. And the Maral relates that to every single thing that we do in Olam Hazeh. At a certain point, an oinus befalls us. Not us, because Mashiach is coming, we're going to live forever. But the whole history of the world has been that people come to the world and they live in the world and then they leave the world. Okay, that's called oinus. It's not up to me. I don't decide that. That's beyond my control when I leave the world. Okay, so if I'm on my way to do the mitzvah, I'm doing the best I can within the context of my life in Olam Hazeh. Okay, if the Eibishter decides on that, on Shmerel, the Eibishter, but not Shmerel. Shmerel we want to lie because he's Shmerel right now, right? Until he does what he was asked to do yesterday. So Beryl, right? So the Eibishter pulled the plug on Beryl. So what's Beryl supposed to do? That's not his fault. That's taka. That's an oinus. That's an accident. What's the accident? Something beyond my control. That's beyond my control. I can't decide when that's going to happen. Okay, so the Eibishter decides that. So if Beryl was really doing his best to bring about a revelation of godliness in Olam Hazeh, and the Eibishter pulled the plug before Beryl finished his job, so it's as if Beryl finished his job in the Eibishter's eyes. But we're not interested in that either. We just want to finish the job. Right? It's not a matter of relative to me whether or not I'm considered as affected. We just want the job done. Right? The Rebbe Shab and Chaim Brisk were together with a lot of other Rabbanim at a meeting in Russia with the government. It was not long before the revolution. That's why this drastic plan of the Russians wasn't as drastic as it could have been, because it didn't last very long because they disappeared soon. It got worse, but this particular plan, what was the plan? Very interesting plan. The plan was, the gezeira of the Russian government was that all of the Rabbanim in Russia had to learn Russian. They had to speak Russian. Now, most of the Rabbanim didn't speak Russian. Right? So they had to learn Russian. So there was a big discussion as to whether or not to fight this or not. I mean, why not? It's okay, say this. It doesn't seem like it's such a terrible thing, so don't fight it. So the Rebbe Shab said we should go with Mesiras Nefesh against this. So Rav Chaim Brisk, who he was very close to, they were extremely close. It's so interesting because you think of Rav Chaim Brisk as the ultimate Litvak. He wasn't really a Litvak; he was a Brisker. It was a different thing, but he's definitely of the Lithuanian yeshiva world. There's no question about that. And he was the greatest of that world and the Rebbe Rashab, but they were extremely close friends. Ad Kedei Kach, when news came of Rav Chaim Brisk's passing, so they elected someone to go into the Rebbe to tell him, someone very close to the Rebbe, because they knew he was going to take it so hard. So the Rebbe Rashab said he's going by Mesiras Nefesh against this decree. So Rav Chaim Brisker asked him, why? So the Rebbe said, I have a hergish for this. I have a feeling that this is the right thing to do. So the Chaim Brisker said, on a hergish, on a feeling, you go Mesiras Nefesh? I mean, what does that mean? So, and he kept referring to him as Lubavitcher Rebbe. Lubavitcher Rebbe. On a feeling, you go there. That's how the stories go. So he said, yes. When I was 12 years old, I trained my body that naturally it would do everything in line with Shulchan Aruch. So if I feel this, I think that it's real. So the Chaim Brisker said, okay, I'm with you. Now the two of them, if the two of them are on the same side, which they usually were, so then all the other Rabbanim are going to fall in line, because those are the two biggest Rabbanim in Russia. So Chaim Brisker and Lubavitcher Rebbe said, this is what we're doing. Who's going to say no? Exactly. So basically, that's what happened. So they didn't go along with the plan. So the Russians planted their own rabbis in all of the communities who would go along with this, some of them got along with the real Rav and gave the real Rav covered and let the real Rav run things, but most of them, a lot of them didn't. And it was a pretty disastrous plan, meaning that also meant that the Rav of the city no longer got a salary from the city, right? So he had to figure out how to make a living, because now there was this puppet rabbi of the Russian government. But it didn't last that long, because the revolution happened pretty soon after. But what's the natural state of the Rebbe Rashab was to do what the Eibishter wants. It's the Rebbe Rashab. Let's look at footnote 42. We've got 3 minutes. We'll see if we can get it done. Umasha madligin b'Chanukah ches neres. Now this is relative to Chavav, right? Everything we do in Chanukah is relative to what happened on Chavav, so to speak. And that which we light on Chanukah ches neres, 8 candles, mitzad zeh shidliku mimenu shmona neshmona yomim, because it stayed, they lit them for 8 days. Now the Rebbe says, an amazing shidduch. Ulai yesh leimar. Maybe you can say. Now that obviously means the Rebbe never saw this anywhere, but he says an incredible chiddush. Kishahaya neis shematzu pach hashemen. On the 25th, when they found the pach shemen, yodu, they knew then. Shahashemen yadlik shmona yomim ad sheyeh shemen Torah. They knew that this pure shemen would light for 8 days in a miraculous way. Shahare svara leimer. It's reasonable to say shaneis she'asa Kadosh Baruch Hu, that the nace, that this was their thinking, that the nace that the Eibishter just did, shematzu pach hashemen. What was the purpose of that nace? That we should be able. What was their Mesiras Nefesh legave the shemen? That instead of using shemen that was not tahor, which would be mutter, right? In that situation, if they didn't have pure oil, they could use impure oil. Tuma hutra b'tzibur, that certain levels of tuma are allowed when it comes to something relevant to the community, which obviously that's the menorah and the Beis Hamikdash is relevant to everybody. So they could have done that. So then the Rebbe is saying an amazing thing. By virtue of the fact that the Eibishter did a miracle for them, and they found this oil that was pure, what might they have realized at that point? Oh, the Eibishter is going to make this last for 8 days until we get the oil. Wow, amazing. Which is it's an incredible thing to say, but it's also, the Rebbe says, Svara Lamar, it's reasonable to say that they thought Shanesha Asa HaKadosh Baruch Shematzu Pach Hashem Haya B'chdei was in order, Sheadliku B'Shem Torah Kol Hazman, that they would light with pure oil the whole time, not one day, right? As amazing as that is also. But here they are, they're faced with this dilemma. Do we use pure oil or do we use tamei oil? We really don't want to use tamei oil. We want to do that which is completely and totally in line with the Eibishter's will. Poof, miracle. They find a pach shemen. What might they very well have thought at that moment? was going to last all 8 days. Wow, the Abish was doing this. I mean, they wrapped those two miracles in one. The Abish is doing this incredible miracle. We have Shemantar. What's the big deal? You have Shemantar for 1 day. Tomorrow you're going to go back to Sheman Tameh. No. Wow. Never. Who would think of such a thing? Right? Right? Look at the asterisk, because we have talked about this. Al Pizeh Maturetz, based on this, it's also answered. Mashi Hikshu ala Beis Yosef, that which they asked regarding the Beis Yosef. It's because the Beis Yosef brings the position of the Ritva that we mentioned, that they divided it up into 8. Shechilku es Hashem shebapach leches chalakim, that they divided it up into 8 pieces. So, Mamanavshach, according to that position, so Adrabah, they dafka thought that they were going to be lighting this for 8 days. Now, they didn't, they loved dafka according to that position. Did they think there was going to be a miracle in the oil for 8 days? But they definitely, when they found the Pach Shemen, their basic understanding was, according to that Shita, that this is supposed to last 8 days. The Abishah did this miracle, so we'll have oil for the next 8 days, which is really simple pshat. Did they take it a step further? Say we're going to have a full amount of oil for the next 8 days? Could be that too. Valpizeh, therefore, based on this Yesh Lemar, the bezesh dalak Hashem, and the fact that it burnt the oil, shmeina yomim, shnei yomim, there's 2 ideas. Prat, a detail, bahanes the Metzias Hashem, and this is a detail in the miracle of finding the oil. Shaboy, that in that finding of the oil, nichlal, it's incorporated and included gam, also the fact, sheyuchlal adlik mimenu, that they're going to be able to light from this, ad shia shementar, until they'll have more shementar, which they understood was going to be an 8-day process. But that's not necessarily so connected. I mean, happens to be it was going to be 8 days, but that's not a direct connection to the idea of Shemona. If it was 7, though, so if the new oil had shown up after 7 days, they would have lit it with 7. They would have lit it on after 7 days. Ushanasa b'neis, and the second level of it, the dafka was 8. Shanasa b'neis shidliku mimeno shmeina yomim, specifically the miracle that it was lit for 8 days. Inyan Shmeina, which is all about 8, Shalamaylam Yishtav, which is beyond the natural order, which we've been talking about at great length in both by Marim. Valpizeh Yesh Lemer, based on this, the Rebbe says, the Rebbe wrote this footnote. It's an edited Maimer. Based on this, we could say, the Zeh She'emer ba Maimer, and that which it says in the Maimer, Shahaya Hagilui Lefi Sha'ah, which we just read, that the revelation of the miracle of 8 days was only temporary, and so for that reason we're not celebrating it every year, because we're not there yet. We will be there, Bez Hashem, today when Mashiach comes. Hu b'nageh le'inyan habais. That's only relative to the second understanding, that the miracle is dafka in the 8 days, as opposed to the ikar miracle being finding it. Aval zeh shemadlikin achshav ches neres. But that which we light now, 8 candles, that is a result of the fact that that they lit it for 8 days, prat, but as it's a detail, if we say that the fact that when they found the shemen, so one of the details of that mitzvah was that they knew it was going to last 8 days. Oh, so according to that, why aren't we celebrating Chav Vav? Because it all happened on Chav Hey. Even the Chav Vav happened on Chav Hey. So that's why we're celebrating Chav Hey. We're not celebrating Chav Vav because it was only temporary, the depressing end of the Maimer. In the footnote, the Rebbe says maybe the reason we're not celebrating Chav Vav is because really the whole miracle, both the last 2 miracles, both really happened on Chav Hey. When they found the oil, what was a prat of that of that nace? I'm sorry, what was the prat of that nace of that miracle? 8 days. Because what did they say to themselves? Why is the Abishah giving us this? Why are we zeicha to this miracle of finding this Pach Shemen? It must be we want this is going to burn until we have Shemen Tar, so it's going to burn for 8 days. Wow!
Wait, sorry. So,
What a shot!
why couldn't the shaman last for like 10 days? Like, why did it specifically have to be?
Well, 8 days was the
represents-
in Gashmias. 8 days was the amount of time, and this is evidently just a simple story in the whole thing. The 8 days was the amount of time that everybody knew, and that's according to the position of the Beis Yosef, who quotes the Ritva, that's why they divided up into 8 little pieces, because everybody knew it was going to take 8 days to get pure oil to the Beis Hamikdash. And they'd have to, find the olives, crush the oil, do everything necessary to make the oil that could be used in the menorah, that was an 8-day process. That's what they knew. Okay, so they're going to set out to do that today. Okay, we'll have it next Tuesday. Oh, okay, so what do we need until then? Now, there was the option of using Shem and Tameh for the next 8 days. They didn't want that option. Therefore, the Eibusher did a miracle. This is definitely how we understand the miracle of Metzias Pach Shemen, right? In Chassidus, in everything, in Chassidus, Nigla, everybody explains it that way. They were zeicha to that miracle because of their breitkeit in not accepting the fact that they could theoretically use Shem and Tameh. So the Rebbe says an amazing Kiddush here. So then incorporated in that is also the understanding that the fact that this miracle was done for us must mean that this is going to burn for 8 days. Because otherwise, what do we? So the miracle lasts for 1 day. So besides, we had a miracle for 1 day. Now we have 7 days of Shem and Tameh. What did we gain? That's an amazing pshat in the whole thing. And according to that, so then the whole miracle happened on Chafei. It all happened on the 25th.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Hanukkah's been around for 3,000 years. No one ever said this. Like 2,500 years. A little less, 2,300 years. Ulai yesh lema. Maybe you could say like this. And when you hear it, it's so reasonable. It's a huge Kiddush.